Hello, I'm Danny Cook, and welcome to another episode of Halftime Cuppa's Halftime Podcast, a 15-minute show where we discuss just one footballing topic in as much detail as possible. So joining me on today's panel, we have Conor Martin.
Hi there, Danny. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Conor?
Not bad, thanks, mate. Not bad.
Good. And joining Conor, we have S.A. Agboaye. Welcome, S.A.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Okay, so on to today's format. It's slightly different to some of our previous episodes. Conor and SA are just going to share their thoughts on the differences between Scottish football and English football. Now, Conor should be a really great panelist for this topic, given that he supports both Celtic and QPR and clearly follows both leagues quite closely. So, yeah, I'm sure Conor's got some great views on this, and I look forward to hearing those. Okay. Sorry? SA, you okay?
No, I was just starting at the fact that Conor's a Celtic fan.
Anyway, let's crack on with the show. So, Conor, why don't you open it up for us? What are the differences between Scottish football and English football?
Believe it or not, I'd say the Scottish league's a bit more entertaining, to be fair. I mean, I think Scottish football is still quite old school. I mean, you get proper tackles, proper challenges, proper matches. You know what? Nice physical games that English football used to have. And I think, like, if you had the choice between, well, I mean, this goes for me, really. If you had Bournemouth v Leicester on, like, a lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday on Sky, you turn over to BT or whatever, you got Hearts v Hibs or something like that, or Ross County playing, I think you see a more entertaining football. I mean, but the pace is a bit different, but I think it's a bit more proper, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think a word sort of springs to mind: authentic. It sounds kind of authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Old school sort of
English. It's unsanitized.
Nice word. Okay, well,
the dictionary.
I mean, you've clearly swallowed a dictionary as well. So let's go over to SA then. SA, do you think it's unsanitized as well?
Yeah, seems a bit more closer to home.
I agree with that. Yeah.
In what sense? Like what? I don't disagree with you. I just want to hear a little bit more as to why you think it's a little bit closer to home.
You know what I mean? Like it's a bit more earthy, more real. I feel like you're close to it. Whereas in the Premier League, you feel close to it, but it's just missing that key ingredient that the Scottish League has.
And I mean, obviously, some might say that that key ingredient could be the competitiveness in some sense, because yes, although you've got a Celtic Rangers who more often than not sort of dominate Scottish leagues, it's kind of a toss-up between the rest, is it not, Conor?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I mean, aside from Celtic and Rangers, I'd say Aberdeen are probably the third strongest club there. And then you'd have to go down to like the likes of Hearts and Hibs. But like I say, the league's getting a bit stronger. It just needs, I mean, like I think the TV money is a bit, well, like way different to what the Premier League gets. But I think over the years, since like the SPFL like sort of restructured, I think it's become a bit more entertaining.
Okay. SA, Conor's just mentioned about the sort of huge difference between TV money there, between Scottish football and English football. What's your thoughts on that? Is there anything Scottish football can sort of look at and try and replicate from English football?
I'm not too sure, actually. Because in Scotland, the only games that actually get most views are the Old Firm derbies, whereas whereas in the Premier League, there are many like fixtures that get like lots of views, whether it may be the London derby or the Manchester derby, or even derbies like West Ham v Chelsea. They attract plenty of views.
Yeah, and just on that derby, Connor, is there maybe a concern that, I mean, maybe not so much for you as a Celtic fan, and maybe not for Rangers fans as well, but is there not a concern with you guys sort of playing each other so often and so frequently? I believe like 3 times at least in the league season.
Mm-hmm.
In the league season, is there not a chance that
Yeah,
it might
4 times.
be 4 times? Okay, well there we go.
Yeah, after the league breaks up in April, like the top half play each other one more time.
Okay, so they play each other home and away one more time, yeah?
No, just the once.
No, just the once. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just on that then, do you think that is maybe a bit of an overkill, or will the sort of rivalry and the spirit of the derby never go away?
No, I don't think the fierceness of it will ever go away. I mean, aside from the football, it's much more than a game. You got your politics and your religion in it. I mean, like it's actually quite mad. Like both sets of fans, there's two types of hatred in the derby. There's like you got all the politics and the religion, and then you got the other hatred, which is it's them. We've got to beat them. Like if that makes sense. So that will never go away. And it's the same with Hearts and Hibs. Them two hate each other, and that will never go away because it's the Edinburgh derby. It's just like they're always trying to outdo each other. So that rivalry will always stay there.
And Essay, as someone as I would probably consider maybe an outsider supporting Arsenal, do you think that the Scottish derbies have a little bit something sort of different on offer compared to English derbies, or is it the same?
Yeah. Touching on the point Conor said about the Old Firm derby being deeper than just football. In England, the derbies are just about football, whereas the Old Firm derby is also about religion, as Conor said.
And the thing is, you don't really have anything like that in England. You can't I can't think of anything like you can't you wouldn't say like Chelsea, for example, you wouldn't go, oh, they're a Protestant club like you would with Rangers against, I don't know, some like Fulham, I don't know, a Catholic. I know that's not the case, but there's nothing like that. There's no comparison on that level.
So it adds that sort of extra dimension then, yeah? That
Yeah.
extra bit of incentive. Okay. Interesting. Just going back to the Premier League now. Now, obviously, this English Premier League that we're very fortunate to have is sort of highly touted as one of the best leagues, if not the best football league in the world. Is there anything that maybe Scottish football can sort of look at to try and take from English football? In terms of, I mean, obviously we've mentioned television money, Conor, but is there anything else that maybe you think that Scottish football needs to implement?
To be honest, it might sound like a bit of a weird one, but see how you've got sleeve sponsors now.
Yeah,
I think a lot of Scottish teams would benefit with a few more sponsors on the shirt, just because the money is so different. And you've got smaller clubs like your Ross Counties and Falkirk and all that. Like them clubs, like if they were down in like Scottish League 2, struggling, not getting any decent crowds on the gates, that bit of extra income from an extra shirt sponsor would sort of even out the loss of revenue through ticket sales. It's just something that I think would help. I mean, it's not like a be all and end all, but I think it could help. And also, I'd love to see the Scottish Premier League a bit bigger as well, rather than just the 12 teams. I mean, when they were restructuring it, and when they started to let in the Highland and Lowland League teams from Scottish non-league, I think they should have sort of added, I don't know, something like 20 to the Premier League just to make it a bit more, what's the words? A bit more stands out a bit, so it looks more competitive.
Okay. Let's hear SA's thoughts then as well, and then we'll come back to the money side of it because I know you'll probably want to discuss that. So SA, fire away.
I have 2 points. On the competitive side, I think the fact they have like promotion relegation playoffs, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that
I think it adds a lot.
Competition.
Is that something that you guys, very quickly, is that something you guys wish English football maybe had?
No.
Yeah, it's a bit hit and miss because you could go the whole season top of the league and say you drop off at the end of the season, lose a few games, drop a few points, you finish second and end up not going up because you've lost the relegation promotion playoff. So there's a downside to it.
It works in Germany and Serbia, but it wouldn't work in England.
Okay, fair point. Do you think that they should keep that in Scotland then, SA?
Yes, they should. Because I feel it's really interesting for Scottish football. In fact, I remember Rangers being included in a promotion playoff against Motherwell back in 2015.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was a rather interesting encounter.
It's kind of interesting, really, when your season probably defies on one game or relies on one game. Sorry. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Is there anything else that you think maybe Scottish football needs to look at, SA?
I think it's, to be honest, for the next few seasons ahead, I think it'll be all right how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the league, the cups, they're quite competitive as well. We've got the Scottish Cup. But I tell you what, they've sort of done something similar to what we have with the Checker Trade Trophy with the Iron Brew Cup or the Scottish Challenge Cup. Because you've got Welsh teams and Northern Irish and like Southern Irish teams in it now as well.
Ah, that's good. That's a good idea.
Which is a bit weird as well because I think you had New Saints in the semi-final last year.
Okay.
From Wales in the cup that's called the Scottish Challenge Cup. So it's a bit weird, but it's something different. I mean, it's probably the closest thing to a British FA Cup, just with smaller teams.
One thing we must discuss, and I will go back to the finances shortly. One thing we must discuss, of course, is the last sort of couple years in terms of Rangers just sort of coming back into the fold. Obviously, after they went into liquidation, I believe, or was pretty close to it. Conor, do you think that had any sort of effect on Scottish football? Did that leave a big dent for the Football League itself?
I mean, as in terms of competitiveness, then yeah, because Celtic were walking it. But I suppose as much as I don't like Rangers and any other one who's got a soft spot for Celtic, like I've got to admit, like the Premier League does need the Rangers.
Yeah,
they both need each other. Like as much as they hate each other, it's like I can't explain it. It's just something that needs to be there. Otherwise, people would switch off because you have Celtic winning the league, and they're like, or you got Aberdeen, but it'll be between them two, and it just get boring.
Yeah, just actually because obviously you Celtic won the league during that sort of spell when Rangers disappeared down the footballing system. Did you feel like those wins were sort of undervalued and maybe not as precious as the exciting campaigns where you maybe got that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lack of I mean, there's like a relief that in like winning the league, you're like pleased, but it's like there's no real challenge. I mean, it's like last year with the Old Ferns. I mean, the first game when we beat them 5-1 at Celtic Park, all over the moon. And then as the season went on, and you saw Rangers were so poor. Every win, as bad as it sounds, after when you like look back and realise you won, it sort of was like, well, we were going to win anyway. So, like that makes sense.
Okay.
But there's still a massive gap between the two sides. And long may it continue.
Controversial comment there from Conor. Can't wait to see the comments on that one. SA, we're going to wrap this up. Last sort of question now, going back to the finance side of things now. Obviously, English football is sort of engulfed in huge money, huge commercial opportunities, and huge transfer fees. Do you think that Scottish football needs that sort of regular income, that I suppose increase in television rights, sponsorship, all of that to sort of make it more attractive? Because at the moment you're seeing, I mean, Gary Hooper is a prime example. Moved from Scottish Premier League to Norwich, I believe, and then obviously lost his way a bit and is in the Championship. But you're seeing quite a few Scottish players maybe go for sort of mid-table or lower Premier League sides and Championship sides.
I mean, and you got Barry Mackay. He went to Forest.
And listen, I think I rate him as well. I thought
he's a very good player.
So yeah, what do you guys think of that? I'll go to SA first because I've not heard him for a little while.
I think it's easier said than done, really. When you talk about whether Scottish football needs the exposure that English football has, or what can be done to have for Scottish football to have exposure, it's easier said than done. But having said that, I think one thing you could do is, you know what, it's a difficult for me. I'm not too sure about that.
Okay, no, that was a good enough answer anyway. Let's cross over to Conor then. Conor, you got any views on that before we wrap up?
Basically, wait, what was the question again?
Just in case anyone sort of nodded off there, the question is: you've obviously got all this finance in English football. If the money, increase in sponsorship, increase in television rights, increase in transfer fees, maybe, if all of that increased, do you think that the Scottish League could maybe compete at a more higher level?
I mean, I'll say, like it could. I mean, not long ago, early 2000s, also Scottish clubs were spending millions on like players. You had Henrik Larsson. Rangers had a load of top like signings, and they spent loads. Hearts spent big, but they went into admin. It's just Scottish football just needs their backing. They need clubs with secure owners with money, and like if they have that, there's no reason why they can't spend big, get in some Championship, lower half of the table Premier League players, clubs like West Ham. I don't know. And they'll make the league, like it'll generate a buzz around the league, because I mean, like I said, Scottish football isn't boring. It's entertaining. All you need is big name players.
Yeah,
with clubs who are like secure money wise, and I think people will tune in more. We'd have more sponsors taken up notice. I mean, you've got Ladbrokes sponsoring the Premier League there, and Betfred sponsored the League Cup and all that. I think he'll just attract more sponsors, and I think the league will continue to grow and grow.
Okay, SA, did you want to jump in? Because I know you sort of was trying to get in. Go on.
Speaking of all these betting sponsors, I read somewhere that the SPFL are looking at taking away betting sponsors from its tournaments.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Now, do you think that will make a huge difference at all? Because obviously betting companies have money, don't they? That's why they're sponsoring.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think they're proposing that. I think it's because they're too worried about kids seeing it now, aren't they? I mean, it's the same with alcohol sponsors on the shirts. You don't see that often now. I mean, what's it with the kids' shirts? Like, I mean, QPR, we're sponsored by King Panda. That's a betting or casino. On the kids' shirt, they don't have a sponsor for it. I mean,
Norwich are the same. Leo Vegas.
Yeah, same with the Premier League as well. I think there's at least 5 or 6 teams with betting sponsors on their shirt. West Brom. What's it? West Ham's the Betway, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you could list. Could list for. You could go club after club. There's loads of them. So.
I mean, it does look tacky, but it brings in the money, so clubs aren't going to complain, are they?
Yeah, no, they certainly aren't. I think that's going to be a discussion for another day because unfortunately we're out of time, chaps. Fantastic debate as always. Really appreciate you guys coming on. Let us know. No problem at all. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, especially as to what you think Scottish football can do to maybe compete at a bit more of a higher level. Do let us know in the comment section below. Of course, be sure to check out the various pieces of content we have across our site, especially Conor Martin's QPR piece recently. Conor, do you want to just give that a quick plug? What was you talking about?
Yeah, basically the article's just about QPR's shocking FA Cup history. It's really cool. Go and check it out.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is. It makes me feel a little bit better as a Norwich fan.
And it's painful reading for me.
Thank you very much there, Conor. And of course, check out our football predictor as well at halftimecuppa.com. Of course, for the final time, a shout out to today's panelists, Conor Martin and S.A. Agboaye. Thank you very much, chaps.
Thank you.
No worries. Cheers. Thanks.
No problem at all. I've been your host, Danny Cook, and you've been listening to another episode of the Halftime Podcast.